Mann Act, the White Slave Traffic Act, also known as the Mann Act, is a United States federal law. It was actually passed in 1910, and it's named after a congressman. But the actual purpose of this would make it a felony for somebody to engage in interstate or foreign commerce transport of any woman or girl for the purpose of prostitution. Conspiracy to violate the Mann Act. Uh, there was a gentleman who actually operated a prostitution ring, and it was it was not really yeah, I guess it was international, but it was basically mostly in the UK and the United States. It didn't really matter what part of the actual country you lived in, or in the UK. In the UK, there was actually a madam out in that area who this actual gentleman actually uh, exchanged client list at the permission of the client and actual the actual prostitutes, the actual females. They actually in this indictment they actually call them victims. So they actually shared actual clients and the females to facilitate in their own continent between the madam and this actual businessman. He actually um, he actually maintained a roster of women in order for the actual clients to pick from photos provided by this actual uh, owner of this actual business. So he would actually conduct all this operation by email along with pictures and agreeing for the actual entertainment, which is the females, and the prices rendered. And they would actually travel wherever the actual client agreed to. And this actual businessman, he would actually provide the transfer, all the logistics for he would provide the actual flight, the booking of the hotels, and the actual receiving of the actual payments for services, and how he actually was able to collect them the fees for the services is that he had two fictitious actual uh, businesses. They were, I mean, they were real to a certain extent at a minimal level. One of them was actually a party planner, basically a party, you know, to entertain their actual any kind of birthday or wedding, but it was at a very minimal just to show uh, a front, you know. And the other one was actually a movie, a film production actual company, and the actual females would actually pay their own taxes because they have you have to register some sort of money to make a living. So they would actually register as models. They don't name it on the indictment, but they actually were actually registered as strippers too, because they were actually paid for appearances. And if you're using the word appearance, that means there's a stripper showing up, you know? So they would actually launder the money legally through appearances and through actually model for their actual time as model actual uh, for like a talent agency. So they would actually be professional models and strippers, and that's how they would actually get paid. And so that was the main source of actually laundering this actual money. But along with that, you also have to consider that with this actual type of business, a lot of things can happen, and I'll start off with one big red flag sometimes. Okay, so say for example, you have a married client. They call these guys actual clients. They don't call them Johns. You know, um, it's funny because I'll get to that later on. But okay, so they would actually be paying for the services out of LA. So how they became, they don't say how they became aware of this actual organization because these were all grown adults. The females were all grown adults. They were willing participants. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that everybody was in agreement of this type of service. Nobody was actually forced because he would actually have these females spread across the United States, and whoever's number came up, they would actually come up with the actual idea of him going to them going take a flight, for example, from California to New York, and that would be your actual uh your destination. You have to book the flight for that particular female, and then you have to also book the actual hotel, and you have to actually book some kind of transportation services for the female to get around, safely. So when you're dealing with all adults, you can have a tendency to not have that much of actual uh, disgruntled actual clients or actual uh, people performing this actual services, right? Because they were able to pull it off for about 7 years, 7 years, and and the thing is that I'll just give you a couple ideas how this became an actual investigation to the FBI, and one of them could be that an actual client or the actual prostitute was reported by an actual domestic partner, family member, an ex-boyfriend, an ex-girlfriend, just for the fact, just to create some kind of revenge on the person actually participating in illegal activities. A lawyer could have actually a wife that's actually going through a divorce, and when you have enough money, you have to actually account for your certain bank account monies for the fact that you can't just wipe out a joint account because you can. No, that actually has to be divided between the divorcing pair, the divorcing couple, right? So if one would ask, well, why is he spending this much money on this party planning uh, business? We don't even live close to LA, so why is he writing checks here? Why is he providing this kind of money for this kind of actual business? That could be the start of an investigation through lawyers, through just being this deceitful, just being actual in revenge mode, and that could be one scenario there. Another scenario too would be somebody somebody's a friend or a close friend knowing that you actually go through them services and they get into some kind of trouble. That could be another way too, but they don't specify here what actually came about to this investigation, but you can pretty much get an idea of how it actually would go down. And to tell you the truth, the phone calls, the actual the tips, they're from family members of the actual people conducting these type of illicit companies or actual acts. They're actually close family members for just being just spiteful, just for revenge, for just being haters, basically. So that's how you would come to be, told on your activities, your illegal activities. Okay, so they named these actual. There's three actual defendants, and there's a few other people mentioned that actually helped out with logistics and so forth. People that actually help run the legal companies to cover for these actual type of operations. But what you don't see in this indictment, and it tells you maybe how powerful this list was. All of these actual arrangements were via email from the particular owner of this prostitution business. He was the actual owner, and he actually set the logistics up, the money, the people. So why isn't there a list of Johns produced in this actual indictment? People are always talking about, well, you're gonna put you can if you get caught soliciting prostitution in our town, we're gonna put your name on a billboard, we're gonna put your picture on a billboard for everybody to see to embarrass you. Where's that list that FBI actually retrieved from this computer server? Why are not we not seeing it? Why are they not able to reveal it? Were the actual players that powerful that even an FBI agent could find himself in a jam if he actually were to produce this actual list? Because obviously these females were not gonna be regular $1,000 females. These this actual they don't even call him a pimp. This actual individual spent money on wardrobe, food, travel, and stay round trip. And when you go in next day, one day to the next day, it's more expensive on your actual ticket. So why isn't there a long list of these actual Johns? You know, were there names in there that powerful that could actually ruin a special agent, a certain federal agent's career, or even their supervisor's career, right? And it just tells that tells me a lot right there. That tells me a lot for the fact that you know that's the cops is that's law enforcement's big trophy is embarrassing the actual John. And I'm glad that they actually named these actual females as they were all female by the way as victims. They actually address them as victims, and that's good. That's a good start. But for the fact that they're not putting the John's info out there, that's kind of weird. That's kind of weird, and I can see, and you could probably actually recognize it down in like in San Isidro in that port. You can actually recognize somebody that's actually committing the tourist a sex tourist, where they were actually go down to the red light district in Tijuana, and it's always popping there. It's always crowded. It's always at any time of the day you want to go there, they can fill your needs. You know what I mean? And for adults, I should say. But let me tell you this: if you really look for it, people crossing back and forth, you can tell. You can tell by somebody's how they come at you, nervousness, antsiness, embarrassed. What did you go down there for? Oh, just have a couple of drinks, And hey, if they're all adults, hey, who am I to say anything? You know what I mean? And again, if you have a 16 or 17-year-old terminal teenager that's crossing the border with his uncles and his dad, who are you to say anything? I mean, who am I to say, hey, you went down there for this, and that? Nah, it's got to accept it. You know what I mean? The kid's terminally ill. That's what can you do at that point? And he's with his dad. He's with his uncles. I mean, come on. And that's something you always had to look forward. You have to look after too, is for these actual predators that would go down there, and do nefarious things. But to prove it, it'll be actually really difficult. And for these indictments to not mention the Johns and the emails, because they got the forensics to actually pull all that information out, from a server. All right, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.